Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier, and in this presentation I'm going to consider whether Nazi Germany was a totalitarian state or not, with the emphasis on that it was. A simple explanation of a totalitarian state would be a regime that has total control over people. But of course, total control of millions of people is impossible to achieve. But a one-party authoritarian state with an official ideology that doesn't tolerate different views would be regarded as totalitarian. It might tolerate religions, but only as far as it has to. If it could, it would eradicate religion. There is usually a dominant leader, a dictator, or the head of a very small clique. Even in the ruling party, democratic principles would be lacking. The civil service, the judiciary, the army are all placed under tight control, and people loyal to the regime placed in positions to see that they do what the government demands. The media is also tightly controlled, and the people are told only what the government wants them to hear, so that it can be difficult to tell what is propaganda and what is true. There is no freedom, no alternative parties, no free trade unions, no rights to appeal against arbitrary or unfair decisions. There is an ever-present secret police, used not to protect the state so much as the government, controlling public behaviour and stamping down on any hint of dissent. The courts will not be independent bodies, but will represent the ruling party and its ideology. The rule of law, the notion that nobody is above the law, does not apply. The regime and those who act on behalf of the regime are not bound by laws. Education and youth organisations will be heavily controlled by the state. The economy too. Now there's a lot there, but I feel I had to make it clear what we are talking about. But what I have placed on this slide would cover a brief introduction for an essay in your exam. So, that Germany was a single-party state seems to be a big point to make and expand on. The Decree for the Protection of the People and State and the Enabling Act had laid the foundations for a totalitarian state, and the Night of the Long Knives had placed Hitler above the law. Then came Gleichschaltung, the coordination of the institutions of the state and of society. By July 1933, all political parties apart from the Nazi Party had been banned. Nazi Germany became a police state, and terror was used. The Gestapo and the SS had unlimited powers to control organised opposition, to stamp on it. And there was the block warden, keeping an eye on individuals. And there was also the Nazis' control of the judiciary. As for the average worker, Lay's Labour Front, which replaced free trade unions, supposedly looked after their interests, though they in fact always sided with the employers, and strikes became illegal. The media and the arts were near totally controlled. Education was controlled, both teachers and the school curriculum, and there was only one youth movement, the Hitler Youth. Young Germans were being indoctrinated into the Nazi way of thinking. Nazi youth policies had some remarkable successes. and there was only one way to see the world. Gleichschaltung was always more than coordinating the institutions of the state. It was an attempt to make every German a National Socialist, for every German to think like a Nazi. Ley really did put it perfectly when he said in 1944, "Our state does not let a man go free. We begin with the child when he is 3 years old. As soon as he begins to think, he is made to carry a little flag. Then follows school, the Hitler Youth, the stormtroopers, and military training. We don't let him go. When all is done comes the Labour Front, which takes over and does not let him go until he dies, even if he doesn't like it." In this way, the Nazis controlled everything, from racial policy to musical taste, from school and the workplace to the local chess club or choir. It is true that the economy was left in private hands, and until 1937 it was largely run by Schacht, who was not a Nazi, but was still made president of the Reichsbank in 1933 and economic minister the following year. However, when the crunch came between a consumer economy and a war economy in 1937, the Nazis took over control for themselves, and Göring was put in charge of their 4-year plan, as autarky and guns before butter became official Nazi policy. So there you have an argument that Nazi Germany was indeed a totalitarian state. Of course, there is another view, but I'll put that in a separate presentation. You'll find plenty of detailed illustrations of what I've talked about here across my 4 ebooks on Weimar and Nazi Germany. And I have to say, I think the set pack on Amazon is pitched at a really good price. But as I always say, it really is up to you if you're interested in getting them or not. So, for now, let me simply thank you for listening. Cheers.